And welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sidelines Past Your Podcast. I am your host, Joshua Thompson. Here we have a great panel of hosts today. We have Bill Zeoli, of course, coming from Boston. We got Dean Lake coming from where are we coming from, Dean?
Portland.
Portland, Oregon. And of course, we got Fonz Jack. Of course, everyone knows how excited he is about a great Warriors win
Of
last
course,
night.
of course.
And let's go ahead and start off. In fact, Fonz, I know that you were running one of our live blogs last night, control over that, and I want to try to get your take on the Warriors and how you think that they perform on a scale of 1 to 10, some highs, some lows. What did you think about the finals overall?
I mean, really surprising that they actually had to lose 2 games to the Cavaliers, who lost like Kyrie first game. It's amazing. Like the team that won 67 games
Okay.
just like lost like two games straight. And I think like one of the biggest things is just they had to get over the fact that they were in the finals.
Okay.
And had to realize like this is it. Like this is all we worked for. Like Draymond probably had to like smack them around for a bit, and then like Kerr, I'm pretty sure Kerr was like, like gave them like some of his finals knowledge from his Spurs in the Bulls days. So I think like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say overall their performance is like a 6.5 or a 7. Not
Okay.
great,
I
but
like.
in the last 2 games, like an 8.
Okay.
The last couple of games, yeah.
All right, we're just gonna go across the panel here. Dean, what do you think? Scale of 1 to 10, and give me a little bit of the Cavs perspective, if you would.
A scale of 1 to 10 for the performance of the Warriors, or for the series overall.
Your take,
Okay.
wherever you're coming from.
Well, being not a fan of either team, specifically being in Portland, obviously, my allegiance. Looking at it from that perspective, as an entertaining series, I would give it a solid 7.5. It was pretty entertaining. Um, I really wanted to see, Cleveland give them a little bit better of a game, but as LeBron said last night, we just ran out of talent. And that's really what happened. Is like LeBron couldn't carry the team by himself. The rest of the team didn't show up in several of the games. Jr. couldn't hit anything. He went on streaks, but a lot of the times he went on big dry spells. Della Dodova couldn't, repeat his magic from the conference finals. Mozgov was kind of, missing for a lot of the series. They just didn't have anyone to step up and help LeBron. So from that perspective, that kind of knocks the series down a little bit for me. But LeBron himself was able to keep it pretty close, so that's the reason it was quite a bit more entertaining. Even though Cleveland didn't really have the talent to keep up with the Warriors in the end.
And what do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I'm right there with Dean. I'll probably, on a scale of 1 to 10 on the overall series, probably 7.5 to 8 for me. I think the Cavs rating 1 to 10, just by LeBron alone, it's got to be at least a 7. How they, just like Fonz said, even winning 2 games, you got to give them some credit there. I guess you got to give LeBron credit. Warriors games 4 through 6 was at a 10. They played exceptional basketball. It's just great how unselfish they are. Reason why they went wire to wire as the best team in the league. And if the series could have went maybe a different way if Kyrie and K-Love was in it. I'm not saying they would win, but maybe it would be 7. And maybe they would win. Who knows? And that series probably would end up being a 10 out of 10 if those two guys were in it.
Okay. Interesting takes on this. So we're looking at an average of about a 7 on this series, which is for me, it's quite interesting to hear that, considering that for the first 3 games, almost for the first 4, we had games decided by 5 points or less. We had a 2-2 series at that point. It was anybody's game. It was a best-of-3 series. You had splits going in Cleveland and in Oakland, and you had some of the arguably some of the best performances from the best players there on the court, and a surprise appearance from Andre Iguodala, who had, ever since leaving Philadelphia, has been honestly looking for a place to be a star and be a place on any team. So it's quite amazing that despite all that happening, that we're still salivating and looking for more, especially with the fact that a team that was projected by LeBron himself to not be such a big contender for the championship, end up in the championship and become that close, just 2 games away from essentially winning it all. And looking at this, let's talk about individual accolades for a second. Andre Iguodala, of course, winning the MVP last night, and what was to many well-deserved, and to many others, there's still a little bit of a question mark on what the standards are for an MVP overall. Of course, Jerry West taking home the very first MVP award when he was on a losing team, which is interesting and it's quite amazing because that was the first time that anyone's ever actually gotten an award for MVP. And of course, it was at that time when people understood that in order to be a valuable player, you have to really help your team win. So the case could be said that LeBron James was the MVP of the series. Now, Dean, I'll go ahead and start with you. Do you buy or sell that? I mean, do you think that LeBron James was actually rightfully the MVP of the series?
I would normally say yes if Iggy hadn't just come in and made a huge difference in that series. I mean, it's hard to kind of ignore what Iguodala did when he was inserted into the starting lineup. I mean, he really, changed the whole series. If that hadn't happened, I would say, yeah, LeBron did deserve it, even in a losing cause, because Curry didn't exactly, light up the either arena. He had, his moments, but he certainly wasn't as good as he was in the previous series that he was playing. So yeah, I think LeBron should have got it if Iggy hadn't come in and blown up the whole series.
Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, most valuable player to me is the most valuable player in a winning effort. LeBron, I guess, obviously you could argue. I mean, this guy was like 1.1 percentage away from breaking Jordan's record on percentage of the team's points in an NBA Finals. So that's saying something. The dude almost averaged a triple-double for the whole Finals. But when it comes to the MVP of the series, it's who is the most valuable player to lead a team to win. In this case, Iguodala has to be definitely the candidate because, as everybody says and agrees with, he is the reason why the series changed as soon as he was inserted into the starting lineup. So I have no problem with Iguodala winning it. I thought he should have won it. Obviously, LeBron was the best player in the series, but if he won it, obviously he'd be the MVP because of what he did. But it came in a losing fashion, so I can't give it to him. So Iguodala definitely should have won it.
So you're saying that MVP needs a couple more acronyms in it at the tail end of that. In winning fashion, if and only if you win. Otherwise, maybe we'll give it to someone else.
I think so.
Which is always good because we're always looking at this in a stat basis thing where, of course, we're talking about Kawhi Leonard winning Defensive Player of the Year for the season, and it was argued that there were other players that were more qualified as far as what they do in that defense. They may not get the stat for, but their simple presence allowed for that defense to change the opponent's offense and get their team that win. So maybe that's one of the criteria that we start to look for going forward. But I don't know. I mean, Fonz, what do you think? Do you think that Iggy definitely deserved it over LeBron?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bill that like you need to win the championship to be the Finals MVP because if I don't know, he didn't he say that he wouldn't accept it if he got it and they lost.
He said that he wouldn't feel good
Okay.
if he won it. I mean, he would
Yeah.
accept it, which would
Of course, he would accept it.
Yeah.
It would validate him saying that he's the best player in the world, of course. But yeah, he said he wouldn't feel good about it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of an empty trophy, like if he got it, because oh cool, I won the Finals MVP, but my team lost. I technically was not the most valuable player because we lost.
Exactly.
The whole Iguodala thing, I think he deserved it because, I mean, obviously he didn't shoot free throws well, and he didn't really shoot well in general. But the fact that he, kind of did everything for the Warriors, he in the first couple of games, like he coming off the bench would like hold the second team, like make them, keep up with the pace of the Warriors, like what they want. He would push the ball, and then he would defend LeBron every single time on the floor, pretty much, which is really just probably the most taxing thing like ever in the NBA. And then just to, come up big in the moments where the team needed him, just to be prepared, like to come in game 4, game 5, game 4, and then just to tell the guys, okay, I'm in the starting lineup now. This is the lineup that Kerr wants to go with, and let's win the series with the style of play that we have done for the entire year.
All right, so I got two big questions about that because it's something that's been kind of on my mind ever since the Warriors became the story of the season, halfway through the season. Does the Warriors play negate the whole building around talent idea? Now, and Bill, I want to start with you because your Patriots are big team guys. You guys have been notorious for making mountains out of molehills in a good way, making players that are never really on the squad, never really considered for any other squad, really good and really standout players. So when you look at the Warriors in a sense versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, when LeBron James clearly said we just ran out of talent, is that real? Can that be really applied to the Warriors, or did the Warriors were they just a team that just executed better?
I think the Warriors have incredible talent. You're looking at a former All-Star, or might still be an All-Star. I don't think he was this. Well, he came off the bench past 2 years. Iguodala with Philly was an All-Star for almost every year he was in Philly. Steph Curry has evolved into an All-Star. Klay Thompson was an All-Star this past year. He can shoot lights out. They knew that going in when they drafted him. And then you got David Lee. Obviously, he didn't play a lot. Former All-Star. Andrew Bogut has been a notorious center in this league. Draymond Green, I think this was his second year, right, in the league, maybe third. I forget, but he's a role player. But they're mostly core are veteran All-Stars. I guess you could say veteran All-Stars. Steph's been in the league now 6 years. But then the great talents of Thompson, Green, Bogut, David Lee, even with his leadership on the bench, makes it. And I think that LeBron said it right that they didn't have enough talent to keep up with Golden State's all that talent to match up with them. So I think it was using all that talent and experience that Golden State have and just play as unselfish as you can, and that's what you got to do.
That's interesting that you say that because then that goes with the idea that GMs are taking now, saying that we need to just load up our squad with a bunch of people, a bunch of maybe 7-year, 8-year veterans on our team to help back up all the younger guys that we're just building up. Get a few of those and surround them with talent, sort of not like a big 3, but maybe a big 5.
If you look at that whole team, they got big names: Andrew Bogut, David Lee, Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala, Leandro Barbosa. Big names, and they had to sacrifice one another Iguodala all year on the bench and then insert in the starting lineup. That means Bogut takes a seat. David Lee barely played, and he was a former All-Star. So I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think it wasn't just them, they just played better. I think it was all of them sacrificing their talents because they all have a bunch of talents, and that's what it took to win.
Okay, what do you think, Dean?
Well, if you really look at the Warriors, what they've done is, first of all, they've drafted very well.
Yeah.
Thompson Curry, obviously, but Draymond Green was a second-round pick, and he's become an integral part of the team.
Oh, yeah.
Another great thing that they've done is they've signed free agents that fit well with the team and aren't super expensive. So they've been really smart about building the team from both sides, from the draft and with free agency. Now, if you look at Cleveland, look how terrible they were, before LeBron came to town. I mean, they had Kyrie Irving, but that's about it. I mean, Irving was miserable. They had problems all over the place. They bring in LeBron. They bring in Love. And those two guys are super expensive, so that doesn't leave them a lot of money to throw at free agents that are, in the mid range. That would help that team a lot. And we saw that the lack of depth on that Cavs team was due, to signing these two huge free agents, LeBron and Kevin Love. So. Kevin Love was a trade, but those two guys are very expensive, so that doesn't leave you a lot of money to fill out the bench, and it showed.
Now, Fonz, we're gonna get your opinion on this in a second, as far as like the team performance versus the individual performance and all individual accolades. But just to keep in mind that free agency is coming up, and we might get to a little bit more of that in a second. But we're looking at about 11 to 12 key players on the Cavs squad that are either restricted or unrestricted free agents coming into this season. So given that they are the projected 2016 Finals champions, that it's something to keep in mind, that maybe, given your point about how expensive these players are, that some of these players might be continuing to pursue the path of the fact that this is a business, they'll be looking for that money, and that might not be the same roster this year. So from this year. So given that idea, do you think that, Fonz, that the Cavs start looking at the Warriors' approach and saying, maybe we need to get some guys that are like that, or do they continue the same, let's build with superstars around LeBron James?
I mean, if you look at their salary structure, all the salaries, Brendan Haywood is owed $10 million next year, so there's that, which is amazing, really. Brendan Haywood, he's still around. But I don't know if they'll have the cap space to actually sign guys, because they're probably going to re-sign Thompson, J.R. Smith, Love, and LeBron will have player options, and then Mozgov has a team option. They're probably going to keep him. And then Anderson Varejao is still there, owes $9 million next year, which is amazing considering that he never plays. And so I just don't know if they'll be able to add players, good players really. They could probably keep some of the players they have now on cheap. Sean Marion's going to be gone. James Jones could retire. Mike Miller, he's probably still going to be there somehow. But Dellavedova, Joe Harris, those guys kind of need to improve, probably, or at least, I don't know, trade them for some wing player who could help them, or a backup point guard, really. So I don't know if they have a lot of avenues to improve the team, because you're built so much around LeBron and Kyrie that there's no other way, unless LeBron says, restructure the contract, I'll get the Tom Brady discount, and let's build a team that will win, because players will want to play with LeBron. So if he says, I'll take discounts so that you guys have more money to spend on star players, then yeah, that's probably the best way for the Cavs to improve.
Now, here's an interesting question. Um, this was the topic of conversation last night. That LeBron James is the guy that will take the shot, but not the guy that's supposed to carry the team. How much stock do you put in that? We'll start out with you, Fonz.
Uh, yeah, I mean, like he's the best player in the world right now. Well, at least for the next couple of years until Anthony Davis improves. But I don't know. I think he kind of deserves to be the one that carries the Cavs because he is the star player. He is their Larry Bird, essentially, the guy who uh, is like the embodiment of the franchise. So I think he probably should carry the team, but like just have other people with him, like Kyrie, just to help like ease the burden.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, we are welcoming on Jason Dunmore. Jason, I don't know if you can hear us out there.
We can't hear you, Jason.
Mic problems.
Jason's having a couple of technical problems, so we'll get that adjusted. But we're bringing him on here to add a fourth. We're actually going to be, and I'm glad you came on board, bud, because we're going to be playing a little 2-on-2. So once you get that adjusted, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. But
I might have to take off here in just a few minutes, Josh. So count me out.
That'll be all right. I'll go ahead and
Okay, you guys hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you, Jason. All right, perfect.
Cool.
So real quick, we're going to take 3 key players on both the Warriors and the Cavs, and we're going to say stay or go. So for the Warriors, it's going to be Draymond Green, David Lee, and Harrison Barnes. I'll go ahead and start with those 3, and we'll get to the Cavs in a second. But Bill, I want to hear your thoughts. Stay or go on those 3. It's Draymond Green, Harrison Barnes, David Lee.
I think you keep Barnes and Green and you get rid of Lee. Obviously, Lee, I think he had that one good game where he came in and he played small ball. But I feel like I think he's a lot. Fonz, you might be able to help me out with this. I think he's a lot on their payroll right now. A lot of money, David Lee.
Yeah. Next year he's owed $15 million.
Exactly. So I feel like you can get him off the books and maybe get another role player, another versatile player, for cheaper on that roster, especially since you haven't been playing him that much. With Barnes and Green, I think you keep those guys.
Okay. And Dean, just before you go ahead and take off.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. Yeah, totally agree with Bill there. And as Fonz brings up, how do you get rid of Lee with that $15 million contract? You don't. That's going to really put the Warriors in a bind.
Yeah.
To keep all these guys. So actually, I don't see Lee going anywhere. I don't see anybody willing to pay that money. So maybe, Barnes or Green is going to have to go instead. I'd hate to see Barnes go because you could see the raw talent there, and the guy is, he really came on this last year. And then Green and how valuable he was to the team. It's a big loss either way, but I have a feeling they won't be able to keep both of those guys. So.
All right. Well, what about you, Fonz?
Same with Bill and Dean. Keep Barnes and Green if you can, and I don't know, get rid of Lee if you can, obviously. I don't know how you'd be able to get rid of Lee. I don't know. You package him with like a Justin Holiday. I don't know, for a second-round pick, something like that. But yeah, I think he really doesn't offer that much anymore for the Warriors because he's pretty much only an offensive player, and the Warriors love having 5 guys who can defend, and they love small ball now. And I think David Lee, he still has a lot of value in the league. He's a big guy who can pass and score, even though he's terrible on defense. But, if you, let's say, somehow, if you paired him with Anthony Davis, I think it would be all right because Davis is a tremendous defensive player, and B, he would help theoretically the Hornets passing, like he could take some of the big shots that Anthony Davis probably isn't ready to take yet. So I think Lee still has value. I think the front office should call everybody and see if we can get anything for Lee. But yeah, it's kind of like bad management from early on that they gave him such a big contract.
What do you think, Jason?
I think that it becomes difficult to move Lee. And I say that because of what Fonz said. They have so much money on the books with him. And if you look at it, last year, before Kerr came in, Lee was a Mark Jackson guy. He was your guy who you looked upon to get a bucket down low. When you paired him with Bogut, and he got your bucket. Where do you send him at with $15 million on the books, and not even sending him anywhere? Isn't Draymond Green going to want the same exact money that you're currently paying David Lee? Because I mean, clearly look at it. He's going to consider himself a max player. You may not say he's going to look at you and say, "Hey, I was runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. I didn't really lock down LeBron James, but when I was needed to, I guarded LeBron in the finals. I got buckets when it was needed to on LeBron. I drew fouls on LeBron. I was if you want to say he was a hellraiser in the series." And he's going to basically say, "I did that." And are you going to go ahead and say, "Okay, let's get rid of Lee, and you can send Lee to the abyss known as Sacramento. Bring back Jason Thompson and a second round draft pick, because if you look at it, you're looking for a player who's going to give you a little bit of energy. He's going to play a little bit of defense. He's going to stay a little bit more healthy than Bogut, and he's a little bit stronger up front. He's going to bring back a little bit of, and you pair two offensive players, Lee and DeMarcus Cousins together, along with Rudy Gay up front. That may not be bad. I mean, what Fonz says, sending him back to New York, that would be horrible.
Come on, that would be amazing.
Him and Carmelo Anthony, that's a lot of money on the books for Phil Jackson to do nothing with.
Yeah.
Talk about an awkward situation. Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith, David Lee, all players within the Carmelo Anthony era, all players who have left the New York Knicks, all players who have now finals experience over Carmelo Anthony, which Phil Jackson is still trying to get him there. And that's a topic of conversation for another time. But let's flip the script, and now the Cavs are going to do everything that they can to keep LeBron James happy. And we're talking about role players here. Now, we just had J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert get added midway through the season, along with Timothy Mozgov. And now you have Anderson Varejao coming back from injury, as well as Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Now, those are 6 big players, but of those 6, of course, you have Mozgov with team option, who, in my personal opinion, was the most consistent player throughout the entire series. We'll also go with Matt Dellavedova, who was amazing in spots, but as was seen before he was drafted, was only going to be amazing in spots and can easily get caught in trap situations where he's not really aware of the ball, much alike a couple of other point guards in that situation. I'm thinking of like a Jordan Farmar. He's got that Jordan Farmar tendency to him, or Nick Young to him. And then one last player who I think could be on the chopping block, and I would like to see if you want to see him stay or go. Of course, it's the ever-important Kevin Love. So, Jason, I want to start with you. You're a big advocate of Cleveland, are you not?
I'm an Oklahoma City fan till I die.
Okay.
But I guess I'm like an NBA realist, and I feel like if you really want to start anywhere with the Cavs, it all starts and revolves around LeBron. But after that, my question would be, do you max out Tristan Thompson? Because he basically, minus the scoring, Tristan Thompson played his worth in the finals. He played his worth in the finals, and he got, they said he had 30 offensive rebounds. Kevin Love wouldn't have gotten you 30 offensive rebounds. He would have got you 20 and 11 a night, but it wouldn't have been the position of the 30 offensive rebounds giving you a second shot. Honestly, I think you think about moving Tristan Thompson because you still have Andy Varejao coming back, or do you move Andy Varejao because he's a little bit older and this is his second injury?
Ooh.
You think about moving one of the two, and honestly, I say go move Tristan Thompson. I thought they should have traded Tristan Thompson earlier on in the season and never got rid of Andrew Wiggins, because Andrew Wiggins would have paid dividends in the finals when they needed a second scorer. So I say you move Tristan Thompson possibly for another guard, maybe a
head over there. What's going on?
That's a good idea.
Wait, what's going on, Bill?
I think Tristan Thompson, like you said, man, he can get you second shots. And if you have Kevin Love and Kyrie, maybe those second shots go down, whereas Smith and Shumpert couldn't get him to go down. Varejao he was on that first team with LeBron when they lost to San Antonio way back when, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's old, man, and he's injury prone. I don't know who's gonna want him.
But remember, if you remember, Varejao was he was a Tristan Thompson before Tristan Thompson was himself.
Oh, yeah.
He got you boards. Oh, yeah. But with the injuries, I agree. You're right. The injuries, he's older.
Yeah. But if you can move Tristan Thompson and because like you said, he could get a max contract maybe anywhere after this postseason and the season. LeBron makes everybody better, so he's gonna get his money. Maybe you do get guards for him. You know, I don't know what they. I think they keep Thompson and move Varejao. You got to blow this whole. I think they got to blow the whole team up and somehow, some way, keep Kyrie or Love, or I think Kyrie's still there.
Kyrie's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you keep Thompson and try to get better bench players, because Kendrick Perkins, Sean Marion, Mike Miller, those guys aren't going to do it. You can't go 6-7 deep, as we've seen. You need J.R. Smith and Shumpert come from the worst team. It showed that there are now the meme trash brothers. So it's I think they need to get better quality on the bench, and maybe you do that with Thompson leaving, and you do keep Varejao. Maybe get those players on the bench by moving Thompson. So we'll see.
What do you think about hanging Dellavedova out there for somebody who needs a guard, who needs a sparky guard to defend? You may not in Dellavedova, you get a defender, but you don't get a shot maker. Someone needs to come off the bench when Kyrie Irving needs a spell, and that wasn't Iman Shumpert or J.R. Smith.
Joe Harris.
You need a legit guard though. You need a legit guard who can bring the ball up, because LeBron did it all.
Joey Hoops can ball for the white people, man.
Exactly. Jason, he just slipped Joey Harris in there on you. You just
Joey Harris. I let that one go because hey, it's Joey Harris. What we want to do?
Joey Hoops, former ACC Player of the Year, man.
But then again, my question is, why not dangle a Tristan Thompson out there for a declining? If he's willing to, why not send him to Jersey for Darren Williams?
Oh, what?
Bring him off the bench. Bring Darren Williams off the bench.
Where's Kyrie gonna play then?
Say that again. Darren Williams and Kyrie Irving wouldn't be too bad in a backcourt. And I'm pretty sure that Darren Williams he wouldn't disagree with that trade. But like Bill said, you got to shore that bench up. Their bench is horrible, and they're not even that it's horrible. Their bench is older. Everybody on their bench has finals experience. You had Marion Miller, Brendan Haywood, Varejao, all those guys are old. Perkins, they're not going to give you real minutes. Mm-hmm. And you could see it in LeBron's face. He was completely exhausted. Game 7, he would have had nothing to give you. And it's kind of bittersweet. It's like taking old Yeller out back and giving him, putting him out of his misery, because he didn't have anything. In a losing effort, he gave us nothing in the fourth. I wanted to see the game go to 7, but that would have been selfish of me to go to 7 because he was done.
Without LeBron James on the floor, J.R. Smith, Dellavedova, James Jones, and Iman Shumpert combined 0 for 21 in the finals.
That's horrible.
New York Knicks.
New York Knicks
represent.
I mean, they need someone who's going to come off the bench and give them a spark. And I mean, it's funny that we're talking about this because this is the same exact thing that happened to the Oklahoma City Thunder last season when they were eliminated by the Spurs. They needed someone to come off the bench and give them a spark. That person is Anthony Morrow of this season, but we didn't make the playoffs. Or that person would be ironically they let go of Dion Waiters.
Okay. Now saying that and say that they let go of Dion, because we both know that Dion, when he was over at
Cleveland,
over at Florida, that he was that guy, that second option on the wing in order to score, came into Cleveland and was supposed to be another scoring option, was supposed to be paired up with Kyrie during those years that LeBron was missing. And when I say missing, I mean, he decided to defect to Florida. Like he was supposed to be a second scoring option, but he was such a volume scorer and such a streaky scorer, much more like a J.R. Smith,
right?
That you kind of wonder, did they really? Did the Cavs really get an improvement when they picked up J.R. Smith? I mean, we're now sitting there and looking back at that, and I'm kind of wondering, okay, did we not just get the same person?
I mean, Dion Waiters is willing to go to the hoop a little bit more, just a touch more. He's just willing to go to the hoop just a little bit more. He's a physical guy who wants the contact. He wants to go to the line. It seems like with J.R. Smith, he's cool with the outside jump shot. He's cool with settling, and that in the finals, he was. I won't say he was exposed, but he literally just it looked ugly.
Okay. So real quick before we get to this next piece, I want to get Fonz's a quick opinion. Again, we're talking about key players on the block. TT. We're talking about K-Love and Dellavedova. Out of those three guys, stay or go. Who are we shipping off and who are we keeping?
I mean, I just think this is like the ultimate test for GM LeBron because he loves Thompson, right? Like he mentioned him in his Sports Illustrated piece before the season, but he also loves Varejao. It's his guy from way back when. So it just we'll see like whether LeBron like really wants to have that whole like players I like playing with and players I like just to keep them because I think Varejao is harder to move than Lee honestly because he's a guy who's owed $9-10 million. Like he is a good defensive player, but he's 32 years old and like just probably just destroyed with all the injuries that he's had. I think you keep Thompson because LeBron is gonna want to keep him anyway. Dellavedova, you could probably trade him for like a Jordan Crawford type guy if you want a bench scorer, just like a gunner. Get Nick Young.
So what we're saying is so far is that David Lee is gone. Somewhere for some team that can absorb that contract, David Lee is gone. Tristan Thompson is hanging out there on a limb. Matt Dellavedova is after he comes back from Australia might be playing for a different team.
Probably.
And Kevin Love is safe as long as he wants to stay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Love is going to be a mystery, in my opinion. Does he want to... Who knows what that guy wants, to be honest.
He wanted to stay.
He says that. Everybody's got to say the right things, but
James,
maybe he does. Maybe he does. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know.
They need him, though, because Tristan Thompson
need him.
can't score. And if you look at it, they weren't willing to give the ball to Mozgov. Because in the times where LeBron went out of the game, I'm thinking go into Mozgov and let him exploit Draymond Green. And when he gets a double team, hopefully Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith will hit an open jumper, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it was like that didn't happen. And the Cavs, next year's Cavs team will look different. It'll look completely different. And that's the thing. That's the conundrum. You have Tristan Thompson, who, like you said, LeBron advocated for him. Are you going to max him out? And what if you max him out and LeBron leaves? All LeBron did was get him money. That's all. LeBron got him some money. LeBron moves on to go get a title somewhere else. I mean, what do you do? You know, their team stands to look a lot different because they don't have any help in the draft, and you move Kevin Love. You send Kevin Love to L.A. for what? They're not going to give you Jordan Clarkson. You're going to get Nick. You're going to get Nick Young or Jeremy Lin, and maybe a mid-level pick. That's all. You're not getting anything, and you don't get any better. In fact, you might have gotten worse.
Yeah, I agree.
Keep in mind a couple of things, fellas, that this is a player option that Kevin Love has to exercise.
Right.
So he could essentially leave that money on the table and up and leave and go sign with another team, which is, totally validated considering a couple of things. Throughout the season, the Cleveland Cavaliers were finding a difficult time in trying to put him into rotation of his offense. And this is just a microcosm of a completely different talk, but Kevin Love was operating as an independent gear in a complete system that hadn't even been established yet. It's like having that special button for the disc changer or the satellite XM radio on your car, and you're just getting used to figuring out how the darn thing goes forward and backward. That's what Kevin Love was. Kevin Love was essentially an offensive and somewhat of a defensive anomaly for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it would be quite understandable if there were some frustration and he left, or if you look at it as, well, now I know how that experiment worked out, let's try it again now that we have some more information, which is always good because a lot of the things that happen are in hindsight. But let me ask you guys a couple of questions. Speaking of the Cavs offense, their ability to execute versus the Warriors' ability to execute. We saw through Games 1, Games 2, and Games 3 the use of the standard lineup with Bogut at the center. Games 4 through 6 with Draymond at center, with Andre Iguodala playing guarding LeBron James. Two different lineups. As far as the defensive and offensive execution, games 5 and 6, completely different endings from games 1 through 4. Overall, would you say which stood out more? The defensive presence of big man play of the Cavs games 1 through 3, or the small ball ability of the Warriors in games 4 through 6. Let's start with you, Fonz.
I mean, the whole defensive thing in the first 3 games was pretty amazing because they were really going back to like the 90s slow it down offense where like LeBron was basically ISO on the left wing and then just running down the clock until he decides to finally go against Iggy. But I think the more impressive thing is really just the small ball Warriors because we've never really seen something like this. Like the Heat kind of did it, but like Bosh was still really a big guy, right? Mm-hmm. So to have a lineup where Draymond Green is essentially your biggest guy, it's kind of amazing. Like it's just a guy who everybody knows. Like he was a second round pick, slow and kind of chubby. And nobody thought he would be a big player in the league, but now we're looking at him as a max guy because the game is changing, and small ball is king. Spacing and shooting, like what the Rockets did, is really succeeding. And we're not really seeing a next generation of big guys unless like Okafor, Towns, and the rest of the incoming big men are just really good at posting up. We're not going to see the posting up anymore. We're just going to see guards take over and just keep on shooting the 3.
And what do you think, though?
I mean, Golden State going small was obviously the factor of the series. Plus, playing big, if you're Cleveland, was good at times. Obviously, games 2 and 3 getting second chance points with Mozgov and TT in there. But it just showed the versatility of Golden State being able to have Draymond Green at the 5 and just outpacing the Cavs when it comes to getting up and down the floor. And I mean, in shot making, you have Tristan Thompson and Mozgov, who really can't make outside shots. They're basically at the rim. I mean, I see Mozgov hit a couple baseline jumpers at some points, but they're mostly are at the rim, whereas Golden State, Draymond Green, their 5 guy, can hit from 3. 36%, I believe, was Golden State from 3, and Cleveland was at like 28 for the finals. So there's where it is right there for me. I think it was Golden State definitely playing small.
And Jason?
Honestly, I would go with the defense of Cleveland because it forced Golden State to go small. Man, and it gets back to the point of the whole Kevin Love situation. If Kevin Love plays in the finals, Kevin Love is nothing but Draymond Green. He can step out and hit the jump shot. He can pass a little bit better than him. He doesn't play the defense that Draymond Green plays. Draymond Green plays a very good defense, but that's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the fact that they went big and they basically, if you look at it, games 1, or let's say 2 and 3, he shut down Dellavedova. I mean, Dellavedova shut down Curry. And I don't know if it was that Dellavedova got in Curry's head, or maybe we're giving Dellavedova too much credit, and Curry just had off nights. Because I would say to myself each night, Curry can't have two bad games in a row. Curry can't have a third bad game in a row. And it was just like he came out and he gave so much effort. We wouldn't have seen that effort if Kyrie Irving was playing. No matter how bad you want the title, that dude played his heart out. So I give it to the defensive effort of Cleveland 1 through 3. Because they definitely, and they tried to do the same thing in Game 6. Unfortunately, I think that it was a little bit too late, and I think that as LeBron said, we ran out of talent. They did, because you kind of gotta get to the point where it's like, okay, cool. What do we do? LeBron needs a rest. What do we do? Where do we go, and how do we get a basket? And it was like, I don't know, but we can play defense. I don't know how to get a bucket, but I can play defense. I can give you an air ball jump shot from Mozgov, but, I can give you some defense. And it was the same thing with – and the funny part about it is that it was all for naught. All those rebounds, offensive rebounds that Tristan Thompson got, they couldn't convert them into second chance points.
True.
So you can get all the offensive rebounds you want. You can't put the basket in the ball in the basket.
Now, essentially, that probably was a result of key players like Tristan Thompson, Mozgov, and LeBron James getting gassed. But nonetheless, we're just going to wrap up here real quick. I just want a quick answer from you guys for as far as adjustments and what was the most dominant thing for these two teams. We're looking at paint scoring, a simple offensive paint scoring versus the three-point scoring. Which do you think is going to be the focus for each team next year? I'll start with you, Jason.
To be completely honest, I think that it would be the perimeter scoring. You said paint scoring or offensive three-point shooting?
Perimeter scoring.
I guess perimeter scoring for Cleveland, where you get, in this sense, like you said earlier, Kevin Love was used as a weapon from the three-point line, but he still managed to get you about 8 or 9 boards, here and there. Kevin Love would. I mean, you could forget Kyrie Irving. Kevin Love was sorely missed in this series, because if you get Kevin Love in this series, then Draymond Green doesn't guard Mozgov or LeBron, and guess what it leaves? Guess who it leaves one-on-one in the paint? It leaves Mozgov to get a couple buckets more in the paint, and it allows LeBron to possibly have to get to the lane a little bit easier and find a shooter. I mean, J.R. Smith is an okay shooter. In this series, he just showed that he wasn't. I mean, maybe the lights got to him. Maybe the opportunity got to him. But when you kick out the J.R. Smith more times than none, he gets you a bucket. And in this series here, he failed. He failed. And the funny part about it was, I seen somebody post it during one of our live blogs. J.R. Smith failed like my Thunder failed in 2010 against the Heat. When James Harden was nowhere to be found, That's what J.R. Smith did in this series. He's not as big of a player, but J.R. Smith was nowhere to be found. Yeah, he got you 18 in Game 3. So what? That was it. He was lost. And that's where I say that the Dion Waiters or the Wiggins situation lost, because he didn't want to go to the hoop. Even when Bogut wasn't in the game, he didn't want to get to the hoop and get a foul drawn on a big man. Because there were a few times where he had a option to go on Klay Thompson. He turned it down with the open shot. It could have got a third foul in Game 4. He could have got a third foul on Draymond Green. He decided to pull up for a fadeaway, and you could go into the lane, get the foul, take the shot. Draymond Green goes to the bench. You bring in Festus Zeoli or David Lee. They go maybe on the run, but he failed in that position, and they need to get better on the perimeter, because Kyrie wouldn't have helped them either.
And Fonz?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be the perimeter scoring of the Cavs, right? Like what Jason said, because you already have LeBron, you have Kyrie, two guys who can pretty much get the basket anytime they want. Does Kevin Love stay? He was essentially a expensive spot-up shooter, an expensive James Jones, really. And will they be able to add another player who can, get buckets for them? Because Jr. Last night he was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna keep on shooting. So he got his points in the end, typical Jr. But yeah, does Joe Harris step up and provide some bench scoring? Like, do they add a young player or some like an Aaron Brooks type gunner, backup point guard who can get buckets? But yeah, for the Warriors, I think they just keep on doing what they're doing. Make smart roster moves. Keep everybody happy, because you've got Steve Kerr. Like, arguably he could be one of the greatest coaches ever in Warriors history if he keeps it up. Who knows?
Okay.
But yeah, so I think the Warriors just keep everything the same. Make some roster moves. Try to re-sign Draymond if you can. And for the Cavs, like, add Jordan Crawford.
All right. And Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, going off what both those guys said, and as we said before, they need people who can put the biscuit in the basket for Cleveland. As far as adjustments, obviously the Iguodala was big, but I saw a stat: Steph Curry, 10.8 points in the fourth quarter in this finals, was the third most ever behind Shaq twice.
Wow.
So that's big. That's big thing there. And that's mostly him hitting threes. Josh, when I was saying earlier, when I was looking up if that challenge stuff, Curry had 52 threes in the finals alone. So that's 20-something. He had 50-something total in between the two. So so they can score, obviously, from outside Cleveland. They need scores, man. They need scores bad. Just like Fonz said, Kyrie, LeBron gets the bucket whenever they want. You got TT if they keep him inside. Verjao if they keep him inside. Love can get you low post scoring, but Fonz said again, spot up shooter. You need perimeter scoring, and that's where they need to go.
All right. Well, thanks, fellas. We're gonna go ahead and quickly wrap this up. Just one last thing before I let you go. Cavs are projected to be the overall winners of next year. You guys in agreement?
No.
No?
I mean, do you think like they'll keep Blatt because he's not LeBron's guy? It's like one of those things.
Oh, God.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah,
That's
right?
a really good question, because that could hinge on what LeBron does.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah.
I think whenever you have LeBron, he's the best player in the world. They're going to be a favorite to win it.
Yeah.
Blatt, no, he's definitely is the best player in the world. Blatt, I mean, what do you want from the guy? The guy is coached before, even though it was overseas. He had the team go all the way to the finals. He did what he could with what he had. I mean, I don't think you can really get rid of the guy. I mean, obviously you want to keep LeBron happy, but I think we said this in the other past podcast. What other coaches are out there?
Mark
what I mean?
Jackson.
Yeah.
That's true. Mark Jackson. Jeff Van Gundy. Yeah.
Mo Cheeks, maybe.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, but we've seen crazier in the NBA. They fired Mark Jackson after making it to the second round of the playoffs, and look at his team now. And his team won a championship. How bittersweet is that?
I feel bad for that man.
He got to commentate the entire series. How that had to kill him.
Yeah, but that's also partly his fault, like with the whole assistant.
Don't make him proud. You never know. I mean, if you think about it, you put some energy into this team. You tell them what they need to put to improve that. They improve on that, and all of a sudden they get one of the best shooters in finals history, Steve Kerr, as their head coach. They improve their shooting over a season. Of course, a lot of that had to do with how these players performed in international play and FIBAs as well.
Kudos to Phil Jackson, though, for making people want interest in Steve Kerr so he can get a better job for New York. I mean, other than New York. Kudos to him for that.
All that just came together, and I think that team is definitely just a product of a lot of work from a lot of people over a great period of time. With that, we're actually going to go ahead and roll out of here. So, guys, Bill, where can we find you? Can we find you on Twitter?
Yeah, man, at Zeoli, Zeoli 100.
Fonz?
Nah, not really. I mean, like, I have a Twitter, but I don't really post much.
You gotta get on there, man.
You gotta give it the program. Gotta give it the program. How about you, Jason?
You know what? My Twitter is kind of inactive, also. I don't post much. I'm on with you guys. Other than that, man, I do have one. It's at SnapShooters, SNAP_shooters. But other than that, I only posted one time for LeBron James, and that was literally it.
Well, that's your panelist. Of course, Dean had to take off early, but you can follow him at DeanLake, DEAN.LAKE on Twitter and on Slack. Bill Zeoli, BILL.ZOLI. I had to spell that one a little bit fast. At Fonz, FONZ.ZAP. And at Jason Dunmore, at Jason Dunmore's full name, no dots, no punctuation needed. And I am Joshua Thompson. Follow me at 4FollowsApollo on Slack, on Twitter, Facebook, your mom's house, wherever you want. But this is another episode of Sidelines Pass, and we're signing off.